All righty. I do believe we are live now as usual. Before I dive into things, I just want to make sure that people can hear me okay. So I'll give everyone a little bit of time to just kind of hop on in here. Maybe give me a good thumbs up here in the chats that you can hear me and audio is all good. And then we'll go from here. If you can't hear me, we are, of course, giving you a little winter weather update as things are turning quite snowy here across the area on this Saturday morning. It may have taken a little while for things to get going, but it did not take too long after that for us to really ramp up the activity here in the area. And yeah, again, if you can hear me, we are looking at Champaign here outside Grange Grove Memorial Stadium, where there's actually going to be a game in about, what's the math there, about 8 hours or so. Okay, audio is all good, so we'll go ahead and keep things rolling here. But yeah, kind of poor timing on the winter storm with some football action trying to take place here later on today. But let's go ahead and take a look at the overview of the area on our satellite and radar picture here. And we'll zoom in a little bit more, kind of get you a little finer details of what we're looking at here. So a lot of locations aren't seeing anything too crazy just yet up and down I-57, talking about a place like Champaign, Tuscola, Mattoon, Charleston, down there into Effingham. It is snowing at a decent clip, but not as much as it is out there to the west. We're looking at places like maybe Decatur now, Taylorville, Lincoln, Springfield, Jacksonville. They've been getting some pretty heavy snow all morning long here, and their snow totals are piling up very quickly as well. What I also want to do is kind of show some sky cams out that direction. We've got a couple of new ones out there in Springfield, and I'll kind of mess around with this one here for just a moment, and I'll bring things full screen, so that way it's a little easier for you guys to check out what's going on. One of our Springfield cameras, unfortunately, is completely covered in snow. I had it left facing west last night. Rookie mistake there for sure. But there's the view in Springfield right now as the snow is coming down at a pretty solid clip that direction. And then we'll change things now over to Decatur. And, well, of course, that's still Springfield. That's a dead giveaway with the Capitol building there in the background. It's working on flipping over to Decatur here. And while we wait, if you are kind of jumping in here, just make sure you let us know where you're watching or listening from and kind of tell us what's happening out in your neck of the woods. And we would love to hear from you and hear what's going on here, because this is going to be, I guess it depends on your definition of fun, but it's going to be kind of a fun day here with the winter weather sweeping on through. There's our view in Decatur. We'll go ahead and take a look here in Mattoon as we switch the cameras over again and kind of just take a look here all across central Illinois to kind of spy in on what's happening here in several locations. Maybe our Mattoon camera just a little frozen, but you kind of get the idea there. Some locations do have that snow piling up at a decent clip, but the roads are able to, for somewhat the most part, kind of stay clear there in Mattoon. Then we look at a place like Charleston. This one's been a fun one to watch all morning long. Roads getting kind of covered up that direction as well. So you get the picture. It's snowing everywhere. Some places a little heavier than others. Accumulation stacking up a little higher in some places, maybe earlier than some others. I think most of the action is out there to the west right now, where things are, where things have been snowing the hardest here for some time. So we'll continue to talk about that. Another thing I want to bring up here is your IDOT road conditions. That gives us a little bit of a look as to how tough it is to drive out there. And we've gotten several reports of folks who are not having a fun time out there driving on major roadways or interstates. That is a look right now at the current road conditions. Everyone is in that pink category, which is the mostly or fully covered roads, except down there in Jasper and Crawford County. So travel, definitely not fun, definitely not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. And you probably already guessed that if you have looked outside or maybe even taken a little bit of a short drive yourself. I have one gentleman here in the room with me, actually, that knows what it's like to have driven in those conditions, and that would be meteorologist Adam Sherwinski. Bear with me for a sec, Adam, because I am going to try to turn it to you. But, beautiful on the first try. Go. Okay, yeah, Adam, kind of take it away. Let us know maybe what's coming the rest of the day here and what folks should expect.
You know, traffic in terms of how many cars are out there wasn't a lot as expected, right? If you don't need to go anywhere, stay at home, right? Here's the thing, though. When you are on those roads, they are somewhat passable if you know what you're doing. I will say it's been a while since we really got back into the winter spirit kind of here, or with the winter kind of the vibes for driving. And with that, you know, even then we've had our last system, people were still having incidences out there. And I did see a couple plows out there. You got to give them plenty of space as well. I took 150 because it's usually a spot where you can go a little bit slower here. But even then, there were some pockets where it needed some more work too. Even here in town where they had areas that were well established and well plowed, those are going to be spots that get blown over and going to have to be replowed constantly here. So again, this is going to be a constant game of catch up for those plows out there, both city, county, and for the state level too. So just be mindful of that. Give them plenty of space. Some of those side streets too were not fun. I was going down Green Street off of Mattis, and I will tell you right now, that was not a fun drive. You had to go very slow, and even the pockets that looked pretty clear weren't very clear. And I did start to do a little bit of slipping and sliding there too. So take your time as you're traveling. What you want to do is probably give yourself an extra 15 to 20, maybe even 30 minutes, depending on where you're heading to and what kind of roads you're taking for travel today. But again, if you don't have to go out, don't go out. Stay indoors, stay warm, and maybe cozy up with a nice book, a nice movie. Here's our snowfall forecast. Now, you're probably thinking, well, I haven't seen anything near this yet. You're right. We've seen a lot of compaction already here for this morning, and snow ratios are going to be a huge thing. Starting to see some more of that wet snow out there, but it will eventually pick up. As we get that kind of wetter snow or more wet snow, easier for it to compact here as opposed to some of that light, fluffy stuff we had our last snow event here. And another key thing is our snowfall rates. All right. Right now, we're seeing our snowfall rates over our melting rates, meaning that we're going to start seeing more of it stack up. Things start to really change over, though, as we go later on into the evening hours here. Some warm air, even some rain cutting into that, and our melting rate is going to be a little bit higher, just in time for the Illini game, too, as well. It's going to be gross out there. Already, as you saw earlier, not a lot there at Grange Grove, not a lot of folks out there. Some of you people are out there walking around, though. I'll give them a lot of credit, too. Very dedicated fan base here. Travel impacts still pretty high here across the region. As Seth just showed you, you can see that the northern half, almost 2/3 of our viewing area, that's where we've seen a lot of those roads already kind of frozen, or not frozen over, but mostly covered, if not completely covered over here. And then to the south, a little bit lighter in details there. But again, the impacts are still going to be the same, especially as we head into the afternoon hours here, through the afternoon and into the evening hours as well. So here's our system. It's going to be moving out of here by later on this afternoon, this evening, more so this evening and into tomorrow morning. Temperatures, though, don't really change over. So if you're expecting us to warm up, get rid of all that snow really quickly, that's not going to be the case. We will see some melting, but it won't be a very fast, quick, thorough melting. Seth, over to you.
All righty, Adam. Appreciate it. And let's see if I can get us. There we go. Like I exactly know what I'm doing over here. All right. Another thing I want to bring up now as well is the temperatures that we're seeing out there. As Adam alluded to, that's going to be kind of key in things moving forward here. Right now, pretty obvious that it's cold enough for it to be snowing. Temperatures across the area ranging from about 27 degrees here in Champaign all the way to 31 degrees out there in Jacksonville. However, let's look at the kind of regional view of some of these temperatures, and you are going to notice that's, well, out there in St. Louis, they're at about 34 degrees. So that warmer air, that above freezing air is not too far away from us, even though those snowfall rates are really intense out there across parts of Macoupin, Morgan County, maybe even out there into Montgomery County. They've really kind of piled things up early. That warm air is right there, and if it just so much as kind of drifts enough into the area, that can start to trim down on the effectiveness of maybe further piling up that snow, or maybe even kind of chip away at the actual snowpack that is there on the ground. So that'll be something to keep an eye out for as we move forward in time. Another thing that you're probably noticing, I noticed this when I went outside to the weather garden just to take a few early measurements, it's starting to get a little windy out there. We're not picking up an official gust here in Champaign. The difference between the actual wind speed and the wind gust has to be more than 10 miles an hour for it to actually register here. So we still have strong winds in Champaign, but these gusts up and down I-55 ranging anywhere between 25, maybe even up to 35 miles an hour in some locations. So dealing with the strong winds as well, that could potentially blow the snow around as it's falling. Maybe not as much blowing snow since it's kind of this wet, slushy snow in nature, but still something that is going to mess with our forecast here a little bit. It's about to bring up Future Track, but before I do that, I also want to bring up the visibility map, because that is also key in things as well, especially when it comes to traveling. Visibility about a mile or less pretty much all across the area. Maybe just a few places south of I-70 that are being spared from that inconvenience here at the moment. So that's why it's important to just make sure that you are kind of going slow, leaving plenty of room between you and the car in front of you, because in some cases, you might not be able to see the car in front of you here with some of these stronger winds as well. And now I will take a look here at some IDOT road cameras, just some random ones we picked here from across the area. I'll go ahead and full screen this one as well, so that way you can kind of get a better look. The one there in the top left is, I believe, the I-72, 74 interchange there in Champaign. The one in the top right, that would be, it looks like Keller Drive right there looking across I-70 and I-57. That one out there in the bottom left corner would be I-74 out towards Danville. And same kind of idea out there as we look on in Argenta as well. So some of these interstates, they look pretty good. Not crazy as far as coverage over them. But, of course, that's taking some work to get that done. And a lot of these places haven't even seen the heaviest snow. Those are kind of some of the lighter snowfall locations at the moment. And what I will do here is, I believe I can pull up some more IDOT cameras here. If I just tap a few magical buttons here, and that's what we'll do. First, we'll look at the Effingham Skycam, because why not? But let's look out there farther to the west. Let's look at a place like Jacksonville, where they've had some more of the snow throughout the day. And you can see, again, roads kind of staying clear. This looks like US 67 out that way. So pretty slushy on the road. You can see some of the gray snow popping up there in that picture. If we want to take another look, we'll see here in Springfield. This will be at the intersection of Stevenson and Dirksen. And that is where some of your problems are going to pop up, because you see a lot of those tire marks kind of going in many different directions. So if you're driving through that intersection, that's when you can kind of lose control of the steering, kind of be tossed around just a little bit. And then we'll look at another spot here. Let's head closer to Decatur, see how things have picked up that way. This is I-72 and US 51, where they kind of overlap here. So again, not looking too bad. There's a lot of spots that haven't seen things pile up just yet, but we're going to see quite a bit of snow here as we continue forward in time. Future Track's going to show a lot of it starting to pile up here, a lot of heavy snow starting to move on in, but also maybe a little bit of rain down there closer to I-70 as well. I think a good way to illustrate that farther is kind of looking at the regional future track. Adam, I know you've got that pulled up over there, so why don't you go ahead and kind of explain the uniqueness and difficulty here with this particular forecast, maybe compared to some others.
Yeah, what's interesting, Seth, is we have that warm front here. I'm going to play it back actually 1 second here. So give me 1 second to kind of reset this and move forward. Let's go. There we go. And you can see future track bringing the storm system with that warm front. That's going to be kind of crucial too. Again, bringing rain in far southern Illinois here. They're not even concerned really with the winter weather as much here, but you can see that it's going to have a spot where we have the mixing and the rain and the snow a little bit in there. So that's going to cut into our snowfall totals for some of us here. It's also going to cut and cause some melting too as well, and kind of make it so it's like, wait, we had this much fall, but I don't see that much. That's because it's going to start melting here after we get closer towards this afternoon and into this evening here. That's the odd thing too. Temperatures will be above that freezing mark just in time for the Illini game too. That'll help with a little bit of melting here, not a lot obviously. And then as the system moves out of here, you can see that cool front behind it, giving us that cold air. It is going to be pretty cold for next week, but we get a break from the precipitation. Also want to allude that we have another system on the way. Nothing like what we're seeing for today. I want to stress that. We are going to see another chance for some light snow across central Illinois, going from Monday night into Tuesday, and then pretty much wrapping up just in time for lunchtime there on Tuesday. So just keep that in mind. This is not our only chance for snow as we go forward in time. We've got another one day here, more like Monday afternoon and into the evening hours. But again, this is a very unique system because it's hard to really track what's going on exactly in terms of what, it's not a clear-cut situation, I should say, really. We've got that warm front playing pretty much a kind of a little bit of a trickery on us here, making it hard to really finite exactly what we're going to see on the ground. So just keep that in mind, that this is a pretty interesting forecast. It's been a tough forecast overall here. The good news is, though, at least we're starting to see some of it kind of verify a little bit here, especially in the western portions of our viewing area. As I talked to Seth earlier, he said kind of could see some overperformance there out towards Jacksonville and Springfield. And then they're right, Seth?
Yeah, that's kind of the situation right now, just because some of that heaviest snow has been allowed to just kind of do its thing uninterrupted here for a little bit. But you bring up a good point talking about that warm front going through. Here's a future track that shows some of these temperatures here, and I'll bring that full screen. And as we play this out a little bit here in time, notice things stay right at about 32 or less until we get to mid-afternoon. Then you see out there Jacksonville 34, Springfield 33, Taylorville 33. That's when things start to become a little complicated, because although those locations out that way really saw the snow pile up quickly, all of a sudden they're going to be the ones that kind of run into a bit of a wall as far as how much more effectively can they pile it up. It can still snow when it's 33 or 34 degrees out, but it's harder for it to kind of efficiently pile up. And that starts to become a problem for a lot of us as we get into 6 or 7 o'clock. And what I mean by problem is a problem for the snow as far as it accumulating, because as we play this out, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, then those temperatures start to really increase. So your snowpack is probably going to be at its peak sometime closer to the early evening or late afternoon hours. And then from that point onward, it looks like it's not going to see enough active snow or not going to have cold enough temperatures at the ground for it to maintain that. And what I've been showing folks here the last 24 hours or so is this handy dandy chart right here, which may look a little confusing at first, but I'm happy to explain it as I'll bring myself back up here to kind of illustrate some things out. So here's just an example. This is the projected snowpack here in Champaign and how it should kind of trend over time. I went outside earlier, did some measurements. We're at about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches as of about, when was that? About 10:30 in the morning. So that's kind of following this trend right here. As we get deeper to the afternoon, we start to see some of the heavier snow march this direction. And then once we start to get about 5 or 6 o'clock, that's what it looks like. The heaviest snow will have already fallen. That's when our temperatures kind of reach that 32-degree mark. And from that point onward, it may still keep snowing, but that warmer air and maybe some rain mixing in is going to kind of maybe shave down that snowpack just a little bit. So it's a very quick journey to that peak, but then things really kind of quickly slow down as far as any further accumulation. So even though we may peak somewhere in that 6 to 7 inch range in a place like Champaign, notice that this line right here, which represents how high your snowpack is, it spends the most time during the day in that dark blue category, which is only 3 to 5 inches. So just a little deceptive because it looks like we're racing towards some really high snowfall numbers and that they're just going to keep going up and up and up all the way to the end of the night. Not necessarily the case. It was projected that we would reach that peak a lot faster than what we would kind of start to see things slow down. So just wanted to illustrate that and make that a little bit clear, because there are some spots that, like I said, are kind of racing towards some higher numbers and have already gotten them here at this point in time. But then all of a sudden things could kind of slow down, maybe plateau here just a little bit. You got something to report over there, Adam?
Yeah, I've got more of a question because I'm looking through some of our live stream right now, some of the questions people have, as they always ask questions. One of them is about asking if the power is going to be out, and I really don't see that being a big concern in some locations. Yes, it's breezy, and that's going to add to visibility, but I don't see this being as wild of a wind as we saw the other day. Correct.
Yeah, the wind, not so much of a concern because it's not going to be, as high as it was the other day. Plus, there's no real ice going on here, and that's always a big kind of power outage thing. The snow itself does weigh quite a bit. It's one of that it's kind of that wetter snow that compacts a little easier. That being said, I just don't see enough for it to be a widespread issue. Obviously, it's going to
pockets issue.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a problem here for a few places, but as far as entire, blocks of towns in the area kind of going without power, probably not going to see too much craziness as far as that goes. Nothing widespread that you might see kind of in a January or February storm where things may be a little windier and maybe a little icier in nature as well. But all that said, I think today's big thing with the impacts is still to travel, just because there's not a whole lot of forgiveness out there on the roads. We've got a lot of people just kind of commenting here about some of the road conditions, and also seeing a fair amount of people kind of talk about, and there we go, everyone's in that pink category now. So tough travel no matter where you're at in central Illinois.
I think that was the key thing about all this, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
I just noticed that, Seth, is that a lot of this was what we were worried about was kind of a twofold thing that people would be traveling for. One, obviously, getting back from Thanksgiving, people want to have Sunday to kind of collect everything and then go back to work Monday. So I know a lot of folks that will travel on Saturday as opposed to Sunday to get back to where they need to be. And traveling's happening all over the country, too. We're not the only ones dealing with the snow, nor are we the only ones dealing with this. And I told folks, if you're going northward into Chicagoland, it's going to be rough. Southward, once you get outside of our viewing area, it might be a little bit better here. And again, that was a couple of days ago, too, as well. And I've already had folks that are probably going from St. Louis, all over the place. So keep that in mind. That was the one concern we have, was that is a holiday weekend, a very busy travel holiday weekend. Number two, a little bit more local. Folks are going to try and go to the Illinois game. It's the last game of the season. It's a rivalry game, and there are going to be people there. And we even have some folks trying to tailgate out there. Not many, but a few tents out there. I've seen a few people walking around here. But again, there's still going to be some dedicated Illini fans, which I really respect. But at the same time, man, is it going to be a gross game to be outdoors?
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. And when we aren't online, and I already see that Seth's got it pulled up here, I'm going to take it out of his mouth.
Yeah,
I feel like. Sorry about that, Seth.
No, go for it.
Key
I'm
thing
sure
is
to
that
help.
we are going to be on giving updates on WCIA.com. They're on our weather blog as he's pulling it up right now, doing his best Vera White right now, like just kind of showing it off for us, right?
Yeah,
Vanna
just
White,
kind of
Vanna
showing
White.
you how just go to the website and it's the top article right
Right.
now. You can scroll through. We've got timestamps for everything, kind of trying to provide updates. Got some folks back in the newsroom that are kind of adding stuff to this as well. So we got you covered. If you don't have time to catch the stream, you can just jump on here for a couple minutes, see what's happening, and
Just
kind
got
of
a question somebody asked. Hey, would it be better to travel today or to be travel on Sunday? Honestly, I would say Sunday would be a better day.
Yeah,
I told folks if you're not going on Friday, wait till Sunday. Saturday is not the day to really be out and about.
yeah, you're kind of putting yourself unnecessarily up against harder
Right.
conditions, because I've got a feeling that most people, if they're somewhere they need to be today already, they probably don't need to be back until they go somewhere Monday morning.
Right.
So since it's the weekend, it may as well just kind of reassess things. There's still the ability to make short little jogs over
Right.
by 20, 30 minutes or something. But as far as, visiting relatives in Chicago or them coming down, yeah, just, if you can wait to return or get to where you're going tomorrow morning, just kind of see how things are.
Yeah,
I just feel
I would
like
say
that's the better
going
idea.
down the street for, maybe groceries is fine if you take your time.
Exactly.
But if you are going all the way to the other side of the viewing area, going to Springfield from Champaign or to Peoria, which I would not recommend going up to Peoria.
No.
If you think we're getting it bad here, it is worse up there.
Yeah, and another thing I want to do here now is show off our little quad camera. And once it pulls up, you'll be able to see multiple locations here, including Springfield, Danville, Effingham, and Champaign. So kind of spanning all corners of the area. And things are certainly different in Springfield than they are in most other places. That's another thing I wanted to bring up, too, is that there's a few comments talking about, oh, yeah, there's, several inches of snow here. And other people are like, it's barely snowed here at all. What the heck are you guys talking about? That kind of is the idea with things today. It's starting out there to the west first, and it's marching its way to the east. So even though we're not seeing it to an intense level in some locations, it's probably going to take a little bit of time here. Again, some of the heaviest snowfall set to take place later on into the mid-afternoon hours. So that's why you're seeing higher totals already out there, closer to Jacksonville, closer to a place like Carlinville, or out there in Springfield as well. That's just kind of the nature of it. Of course, things move west to east, and the heaviest stuff maybe hasn't arrived in some locations here. So that is just kind of a way of illustrating it in multiple different locations.
I know you have your quad view up there
Mhm.
for everyone to see there,
Yes.
Seth. Could you flip it over to Max 1 and just Max 1, not me? I want to kind of flip
Yes.
through some of our other cameras that we have, because I mentioned Peoria, obviously, here. That was one of the spots where I was kind of saying, hey, we need to kind of keep an eye out, or not keep an eye out, but they're one of the spots that are going to be a little bit more impacted. And there's a look at 74 going to Peoria. Let's say, oh, well, that's not super far, right? Well, Peoria is right down the road. Well, here's the thing. You can already see 74 doesn't look as clear as some of the other roads here locally. It's heavy snow, too. It's hard to even see downtown in that camera view. There's just one view. We have multiple from our sister station, WMBD, over there in Peoria, my former station there. But you can see that also looking just across the river. Hard to see much of downtown. Let's take it all the way up towards Pontiac, still in our viewing area roughly. But again, they have seen just a boatload of just issues here in terms of just visibility across the area. I'm just looking at a bunch of different cameras just because, I mean, why not? Not as bad here actually in Pontiac. I'll take that back. It was looking rougher a little bit earlier. And so, yeah, we're just kind of keeping an eye on things. Let's take a look at Uptown Normal, because even then, let's say you're saying, okay, well, if I'm in Farmer City and I want to run up to Normal, what about that? Well, there's a view of Normal right now. I don't know. That's not really somewhere I'd want to be. Good job on keeping those roads pretty clear, though, around Uptown there. Not too far from right there from the university, too. So keep that in mind. Yeah, it's one of those that I would say if you don't have to travel far. And here's the thing. It may be looking good in your destination, but between point A and point B, that's the key thing when it comes to travel. You always have to think about where we're going, not and what's in between, not where A looks and how B looks. It's kind of in the middle stuff. Here's a view there from East Peoria looking out towards Peoria. You can't even see downtown.
Sheesh, yeah. Usually you can see, pretty well across the water there. And
Yeah.
you
Paradise
wouldn't know
Casino
there's
is
anything
very
behind it.
much, there's not even that many folks there today. So, yeah.
Thanks, Adam. One thing I'd like to do now, if I can kind of get things, there we go. So I will switch back over to me here. And we've got some snowfall reports that have actually been submitted here. We're just using one of our apps that checks on some of those. I know this font is so hard to see. I don't know if there's a way I can enlarge or not, but I'll just kind of illustrate it here for you guys. Around the Decatur area, there's been reports of close to 2 inches right there in town, a report of 3.5 inches just outside of town. We go farther to the west, that's where we're seeing some of our highest reports. And again, I know this is incredibly difficult to read font here, but inside the Springfield area, we've got around 4 inches on the northeast side, around 5 inches on the north side. Even in Chatham, we've got about 5.5 inches. Jacksonville looks like they've got a 6-inch report. And into, I believe that is Franklin, there is a 7-inch report. So a lot of those places kind of already approaching the higher end of totals. Of course, some of these reports are just in some remote locations, not necessarily representative of the entire town that they're in, but gives you a pretty good idea when there's multiple reports of around 5 or 6 inches. That is the case there for places like that. That being said, you've got 4 or 5 inches out that way. We still don't have a whole lot of reports out here across Champaign or across Mattoon, Charleston, Danville, because there really isn't a whole lot to measure yet. Like I said, I went out there earlier in the parking lot in the weather garden, and I got about, I think I got about 1.25 inches. So nothing crazy here just yet. But as things happen here with weather, that's all heading this direction. It's just going to take a little bit of time before it can do that. So patience is key here. If you want the snow, if you don't want the snow, then of course you are perfectly content with the way things are right now. But yeah, those are some of the reports that we have. And of course, those are going to continue to file in as we go throughout the course of the rest of the day today, as this heavy snow continues to march in. And I've got a feeling places like Effingham, Mattoon, Charleston, Champaign that haven't seen the super heavy snow yet, they're probably in line for some of it here before too long, because it sure looks like some of it might be on its way. Kind of seeing the same things over there, Adam?
Yeah, no, I was going to show more of a broader view of what's going on here in central Illinois, not just in central Illinois, but really just throughout the state. You can already see by St. Louis, there's kind of a little bit of that wintry mix, and also just kind of that snow not too far from town there. A lot of Missouri not really tapping into the snowfall here. Maybe seeing some more on the backside here, but even Kansas City to St. Louis down to Springfield, they're tapping into the rain. And you're probably thinking, well, if that's all coming this way, what about us? It all has to do with temperature profiles at that point here. That moisture can come in as rain and change over to snow. Keep that in mind. We will see some of that here later on today. Some of that switch over to wintry mix and even some rain to kind of wash things out and kind of get rid of some of the snow as well. But as of right now, you can just see how much of a sloppy system this is. And again, it's not just us dealing with the snow. I mean, they're dealing with it down into southern Illinois, portions of southern Illinois, up to Chicagoland. And it's going to be an issue there for Ann Arbor as Michigan plays Ohio State later today. Northwest Indiana into Indy itself here. They're having a state football there in Indianapolis there at the Lucas Oil Stadium. And just like we had state football yesterday, they're over in Normal at ISU. All the way up into southern Wisconsin, too, not too far from the Beloit area, and even closer towards, now getting closer towards Milwaukee through Iowa. And again, that system stretching all the way out to Kansas City Metro, even out towards Topeka too. So it's a messy system. They're contending with the showers and storms to the south. For us to the north, we're getting the snow. And again, it's not a clear-cut system. There's going to be a little bit of that wiggle room, that transition, even here in central Illinois. So just keep that in mind, that this is just one big messy system, and it's causing a lot of issues for travel too. Again, I've been talking about leaving here in central Illinois, our viewing area, but people are going to be traveling to central Illinois too. That's what we want to stress. So that's kind of a good thing with having Facebook too. If you follow us and you aren't here in the viewing area, but you're talking about when should I go back home? When can I go back to central Illinois? Okay, we're kind of letting you know about that as well. We always talk about people leaving central Illinois, about people coming in central Illinois after they've been through Thanksgiving. And if you're out towards basically the southern states here, the southern portions of the system, you can see that we have lots of rainfall here, but you're going to run into some snow here. Keep that in mind. And if you're coming from Chicagoland, you're going to run through a lot of snow before you finally get back just within our viewing area alone. So keep that all in the back of your mind here. If you're thinking about travel, today's not the day to do it. Wait till those roads get cleared out. We get a little bit more of that rain to wash things out here. I would say Sundays are a better bet. I know you don't get much time between Sunday and Monday, but you got to be safety. Safety is kind of the key thing here, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, especially if you're traveling up there to the north, just because that's where it's going to be all snow from beginning to end. The farther south you go, maybe you don't run into as much snow, but things just get a little sloppy looking. Not going to be a fun drive either way. Speaking along that line, I just kind of want to show the statewide future track here, just to kind of walk folks through obviously what's going to happen here, but also in some surrounding areas in case that travel is on the mind. You kind of want to know, well, am I able to, make it over to Indiana? Am I able to make it down to Kentucky or wherever you might be wanting to go here over the next couple of days? As we play future track out, you're going to see it all stay snow here for the next several hours. But then mid-afternoon, maybe things start to switch over to rain down there closer to I-70. Of course, that's why you have some of those lower totals that way. But even for everyone here, as we get into the middle of the day in the late afternoon hours, still snowing in the north part of the state. If you're heading that way, you're going to run into quite a bit of that. Their snowfall totals, I think National Weather Service had some projections over 9 inches up that way. So definitely not ideal if you're heading that direction. As far as traveling just within the area still, I think things will probably be at their worst as far as the snowfall accumulation, as far as kind of the road coverage, right around the mid to late afternoon hours, because then after that, some warm air starts to lift on in, and you see some green, you see some kind of that pink and purple pop up. That's more of that rain and wintry mix, which will really start to slow things down, even start to eat away into our snowpack a little bit. The good thing is, after about midnight tonight, there's going to be nothing actively falling anymore. So what's happened is all that we're going to see. And from that point onwards, just dealing with some of that colder air. But certainly still a ways to go. We are about 11:15 here in the morning, so still plenty of heavy snow to come by over the next several hours. And again, we'll be looking towards accumulations that could surpass 6 inches of snow here in several locations. And again, here's kind of our current thinking here. This is the map that we continued with this morning. Still on track for the most part. I think there might be just a couple of locations out here on the west end of this purple range that may end up really kind of knocking on the door of that upwards of 7 inches. But this map is trying to convey the message of what the snowpack is going to be like during the worst conditions that'll still last for several hours. So even though things might get upwards of 7 inches for just an hour at a time, it might melt back down and kind of fit that range. So in general, the farther north you end up there, the higher those totals are going to end up. There's a few exceptions because there is a little bit of a southwest to northeast tilt here to the system. I know a lot of us are getting close to those snowfall totals already. Things have piled up here very quickly this morning. But again, be interested to see how some of that warmer air factors into things, how it kind of maybe applies the brakes, so to speak, on that accumulating snowfall. But if you're down there around the I-70 region, not a ton to worry about. Still going to be tricky to travel, of course, but kind of keeping that cap at around that 5-inch mark or so. Kind of a transition zone around the Coles County, Shelby County areas where there's still some of that higher end potential that could bring you up there closer to that 6-inch mark. But again, most of the worst of it going to stay up there to the north and west. That's where some of those higher totals are going to end up being. But yeah, that's kind of the way things are rolling so far today with those temperatures staying nice and cold. We are going to continue to see that snow pile up here pretty effectively over the next several hours. So once again, just kind of taking a look at visibility. You know, we're kind of seeing the same kind of conditions out there across the area at this point. Not a whole lot of favorability as far as being able to see well down the road, about 1 mile or less here in several locations. Also, just keep an eye out for any sort of reports that you may have there in the comments if anything's going on your direction that we need to be mindful of. And also keeping up with the National Weather Service as well. But I'd say, all things considered, we're kind of on the right track so far today. Not the worst winter storm we've ever seen. Never was going to be that. But still one that comes at a bad time with the holiday weekend being here. People wanting to travel, wanting to be places and stuff like that. As I've shown you a couple of times here already, the road conditions, not ideal. We've even got a first-hand report from Adam here that the road conditions were not ideal. And, well, you can just look at this map and be convinced of that as well. It's all pink all across the area. It's just not the best time here, especially right here at this hour. That's why we were kind of telling folks, if you did have somewhere to be and it had to be today, early morning was probably your best bet. Now anything is just, like I said, a little unnecessarily risky just because there will be better times later on, maybe late tonight, but more so into Sunday morning. But the current state of affairs is that the snowfall rates, at least for many of us, are starting to really overcome the snow melting rates. And it's going to be that way for a while. Been kind of talking about it like it's a tug of war. The snowfall rates are heavy right now. There's not a whole lot of warm air. So obviously things are piling up very quickly. But later into the day that we get, that warmer air starts to mix in. Then all of a sudden it can be more of a even fight. And then some of those snow melting rates can sort of pull away and kind of take the lead, so to speak, and keep things in check. Also, we mentioned a couple of times the Illini game scheduled for 6:30. Here's a look at that forecast. Again, not by any stretch of the imagination going to be a fun game to play in, but this would be kind of a cool one to talk about that you went to. It's going to look awesome on TV. That's how I'm going to watch it. But if you're out there, dress for it. It's going to be still right there near the freezing point. The snow may be coming down at you sideways. The good thing is it should be letting up at some point in time there in the middle part of the game, so that might make things a little easier. I think having a wind break, being up against the walls, being under the balconies probably is the best way to go about this one. Chances are there's not gonna be a a bunch of people taking your seat, chances are there's going to be some empty seats to fill in.
Guarantee this is the only snow game or wintry mix or whatever you want to call it mix for the Illini this season, because it's the last for the home games this season.
This Northwestern game always seems like a bad weather game, whether it's here or there.
Yeah.
Last year it was super cold. I know people were talking about that one. That was I believe that one was up at Wrigley Field. So back here at home this time, and the conditions not ideal for that. Kind of give you a sneak peek outside Grange Grove there to kind of look at the scene, the tailgating scene, which I'm sure
you
not
see
a whole
anybody
lot of
out there, Seth?
There's a few people maybe moving some, I don't know if those are trash cans or what they're doing out there, but pretty blanketed scene in lots that would normally be pretty full. I don't want to say completely full, obviously, with 6 or 7 hours before the game, but still there would be plenty of people usually kind of hanging out there and wanting to enjoy things before the game. But not a 50-degree sunny day like it was a couple weekends ago, Adam. It is completely different.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of end this on a fun note, because we always like to have a little fun on our streams. What do you guys think the score is going to be? You can always message there in the comments. What do you think the score is going to be? Who's going to win? That kind of stuff.
Passing yards, potentially. I'm not condoning betting over-unders, but just as far as
curiosity, what you guys are thinking. That's all.
I was going to say, with it being kind of a snowy game, it's going to be hard to throw straight into the wind. You'll want to kind of run the ball more. Field goals probably won't be as much.
It's interesting how the game changes so drastically because of the weather.
A lot of going for it on fourth down, and that's kind of the mentality we run with anyway, isn't it? Go for it.
Hey, one more check too, by the way, before we get really too much deeper into the Facebook Live here. Winter storm warning throughout much of our viewing area. Fayette, Effingham, Cumberland, Jasper, Crawford, and Clark County. Those are winter weather advisories here. So not as intense there. That's where you're going to see a little bit more of that rain, wintry mix, and maybe not as intense snow. Further northward, you see more of the snow. And eventually, once you get north of 74, up to 72, 74 northward, that's where you're going to run into primarily snowfall. So I would say forward Iroquois, Livingston County, McLean County, northern Champaign County for sure, and even much of Vermilion County, you guys are going to run into a bit more of the snowy conditions, just pure snowfall, not really the wintry mix moving in until maybe later this afternoon, and even then, not set in stone. Further south, you'll run into a little bit more of that mix later on this evening here. So just keep that in mind, that this is a messy system, and we're not the only ones contending with it. I want to keep that kind of clear. I've had seen some messages there on Facebook, some comments on Facebook. What about going to Terre Haute? What about going to Tolona? What about going? If you're following along with us here throughout this, you can always go backwards in the lives as well. We've answered some of those questions too, but also just keep in mind that roads here might be different than what they are in Indiana. So that's also another thing. We can't talk about everywhere you're going to be traveling to. So just be mindful of that. They are still there up in Vigo County. It looks like right now under the winter weather advisory, but that doesn't mean that the roads are going to be completely clear and it's going to be sunny and beautiful. It's still going to be a little bit more of a mess here. This is a messy system overall. That's one thing I want to stress is that this is a very impactful system for travel, not just for cars, but for planes too. There as well. So just keep that in mind. Seth, looks like you have a map pulled up right now of just roadways.
Yeah, I'm just kind of pulling up the, I know we've had the IDOT thing up there. That's helpful with finding out how covered things are. But as far as the actual traffic flow, this Google map does a pretty good job of that. And I will attempt here to bring it full screen. Adam, is there any way you can make sure router 6 is put in program? I just want to have things kind of put to full screen there.
Yep, give me 1 second.
Switch the green button to 6 and then hit cut or auto. Beautiful. Okay, so now people can kind of get a better look at this. In and around the Champaign area, there's lots of spots. You can kind of see the key down here at the bottom. I'm kind of indicating it here with my cursor. The yellow, the orange, the red, as you naturally would expect. That means some slower travel there on some of the roadways. So we'll just kind of look at some of the major interstates in the area, just kind of follow them up and down. Let's look at 57 here, starting around Effingham. It's not looking too bad there in town itself. It looks like things are flowing as they should. But then you start to go northward, start to get into parts of Cumberland, Shelby County, and into Coles County as well. That's when it looks like things start to slow down through Mattoon, all the way up to Arcola, Tuscola. You get the idea. It continues that way all the way up here to about Champaign or so, where things have been snowing for a little longer. Then kind of gets a little better again as we go up north, because they too have not really had much of the heaviest snow here just yet. And now looking at I-72, I-74, probably much different story. You can even see in Springfield, we have a couple of locations there that have some closed, kind of the lanes are closed. It looks like part of I-72. Looks like maybe I-72 westbound has a closure going on there. And then I-55 also has a closure. That one looks like on the southbound lane as well. So watch out for stuff like that. That's going to carry over all the way to the east. So a couple of closures there, looks like between New Berlin and kind of the west side of Springfield there, and then also just outside of Chatham and Glenarm as well. And then as far as I-55 goes, lots of just kind of moderate traffic flow. Same situation there on, I wanted to say 74, but even it up there closer to Bloomington and Normal isn't too bad. Then we get to the Peoria area. That's where things are slowing down as well. So again, nothing too crazy that I'm letting you know here, but the actual traffic flow itself is kind of starting to slow down. Hasn't grinded to a halt in any location just yet, but is certainly on the slower end of things. So looks like we've been on here for about 40 minutes or so. Just wanted these to oh, we got infinite video loop there. Apologize for that. Let's switch that out. There we go. So just kind of wanted to provide a little update here. We plan on doing a couple more of these as we go throughout the day, but I think we've pretty much said all we need to on this one for the most part. We're going to kind of continue to track things, keep our website updated, continue to let you know of everything that's happening here on our social media platforms. So we are not completely going away, but probably going to wrap things up here on this stream. So that way we can kind of gather our bearings here a little bit and continue to keep up to date on some stuff. So again, appreciate you all for coming on in here and bringing some of your questions and bringing some of your reports as well. All very helpful and makes our jobs a lot easier to do. With that being said, it's about 11:30 here. So we may be planning on doing another stream around 1:30, 2 o'clock, maybe somewhere in that general time frame. Just kind of keep track of the latest conditions, because by then some of that heavier snow will likely be across the rest of the area as well. So unless, Adam, do you have anything else to add here before we close up? Looks like we're good. So again, stay safe out there, stay warm. Hopefully you don't have anywhere to be. Enjoy some football today. If football's not your thing, just enjoy some TV, some Netflix, whatever you want to watch here today. It's a good day just to stay inside, get the fireplace going, and just kind of kick back and relax. So that being said, for meteorologist Adam Sherwinski, I'm meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff. Wish you a good rest of your day. Again, stay safe, and we will